Hey guys, Tyler Mahoney here
And I'm Jeff Falkenberry. We're back
for another edition of the Endless Season Outdoors podcast. We are in April. Turkey season is near. Fishing is heating up. We got a lot of fun things to talk about today, so we hope you'll stick around. So, I want to get started just right off the bat. Man, today was an awesome day on the water on Lake of the Ozarks.
Yeah.
Got to go out with Cody Van Etten, the spoonbill slayer.
Connoisseur.
Yeah. I tell you what, it's the first time that I've been snagging since I was, I don't know, maybe 13, 14. And that time around, it was raining, cold. We were doing the jerking. And,
Jerking hope.
Man, Cody's got them dialed in. We had our first fish in 2 minutes.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat that. We had our 2 fish limit between my dad and I in probably 45 minutes total. One was a 50-pounder. The other ones are smaller keepers. Interestingly, you have to keep spoonbill if they are a minimum of 34 inches long.
Yep, it's a legal fish.
Now, do you know anything of what's the rhyme or reason for that?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either.
Aside from, I think in like Grand Lake, in areas like that, they can snag a lot longer, down in Oklahoma, but they aren't allowed to use barbs. So it's a barbless only type deal. So with us being able to use barbs, this is speculation. I have no idea, but I'm assuming, if that fish is torn up, or something like that, I have no idea.
Well, and interestingly, so we had one today that was a short. It had to go back, and it was hooked pretty good, but it didn't really leave. There was a little mark there, but it didn't tear it up terribly.
You really have to gash one, to hurt them, because they don't have bones or anything. They're just cartilage and meat, and so you'd have to gash one pretty hard to hurt it.
We the biggest one we had was 50, and we got ours so quick. We were just messing around, and Cody's one of the contributors to Truman Lake Fishing Intel, so we were just having a good time chit chatting, and he hadn't actually. He's in the several hundreds. I think he might even be in like 5 or 6. I don't know. Does that sound right?
That probably does.
I mean, I
he
swear,
does 3 or 4 trips a day.
I swear he said that they had boated over 600 fish.
That doesn't surprise me.
I might be misremembering that, but I know it's in the hundreds. But with all those fish caught for his clients, he actually has not caught a fish himself.
Oh.
He's getting his clients on it. So he put a pole in the water, and we just kind of putzed around, and he hooked a giant that he got up to the boat, and we saw it. I got camera footage. I haven't checked it yet, but he strongly believes it was a 70-plus fish, which, it's not out of the ordinary, but pretty darn nice fish.
Yeah.
So
just come off?
Yeah, it was barely hooked, and it was right in the tail, and it just that right way
came right off. Popped
right off. So no, it was fun. It was not too many boats out there, about 15, 20 boats here on a weekday, and the weekends right now are starting to get a little nuts.
Yeah.
So
warm weather.
Yeah. So, but things are heating up. That was a lot of fun. Nice change of pace. Not sure it's something I honestly really need to do again. We tried frying some up tonight, and it wasn't something I feel like I would ever crave.
It's just like anything else. The folks that love it, love it.
Yeah.
The ones that don't care for it, don't. I personally don't care for it. I love sushi.
Yeah.
And lots of people are like, oh, that's nasty, and I get it, but it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
We'll try it smoked and see. We'll get usage out of it, but, I did it, and I'm good. I
tell you one, here's a recipe. If you've got some fish, trout are the same way to me. I'm not big on eating trout. They're just not good. I don't know. For me.
Yeah.
But we'll take them, and I'll brine them. I'll get a really good seasoned brine. Boil it, get it good and season the brine, not the fish. Let it cool. Put your fish fillets in there, your trout fillets, or your spoonbill, or whatever. Don't do it real long, 2 or 3 hours in that brine. Then put them on the smoker.
Yeah.
And smoke that. Then crumble it up with, and mix it with, let it cool. Crumble it up with cream cheese.
Yep.
And dill and some chives and put it on crackers. Top notch.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds fantastic.
It's kind of like wrapping stuff in bacon.
Yeah.
You know, if you do enough stuff to it.
Yeah.
It's that situation.
I don't mind trout. Honestly, I kind of enjoy it, but that sounds pretty good. Like
wild trout or park trout? Because I don't mind wild trout.
Taneycomo trout,
Yeah.
which you know, debatable on who you talk to. So
I don't. The dog food ones I don't care for. Or Purina trout, whatever. They're fun to catch.
Right.
Blast to go do.
Yeah.
Just not my thing at the table.
Yeah.
Except for smoked fish dip. That's what we call it. My family calls it smoked fish dip.
Yeah.
We eat the far out of it.
Heck yeah. So what's new in Jeff Falkenberry's fishing world here since we were doing our last episode?
And same stuff, different day. Catfish today, crappie tomorrow. Catfish next 2 days, crappie another day or two. You know, it's never a dull moment. And we've been on the fish.
Yeah.
We have been on the fish. What a year it's been for catfishing. Of course, we've had a flood year again. The lake got up to 724, I think. Now it's back down to 716 range where we're still 10 foot high, but we've caught catfish on deep ledges. We've caught catfish in 1.5 feet of water. We've caught catfish in soybean fields. We've caught them in the brush. We've caught them in the current. We've caught them every way you can catch them this year so far, and we've had some dandies.
Yeah.
We've had them 6940s, the biggest on a blue. We had a 55-pound flathead. We've caught tons of 30-pound fish and plenty over 40. It's been really, really, really good. The crappie fishing's been really good. These fish are in a pre-spawn pattern right now, so they're staging up out in these creeks. And I'm playing with a new toy right now. It's called the Active Target from Lowrance. It's kind of, you know, Garmin's Live Scope's been out for 2 or 3 years now.
It's got to be at least 2.
Oh yeah. So anyhow, you know, Lowrance had a couple of different deals, but they just now have got the Active Target released, and I've had it on about a week and a half right now, and it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Now I say mind blowing. I don't have a lot of experience with the live scope.
Yeah.
I've been on one boat that had live scope on it. It was 2 years ago. So I don't know. People say, well, is it better than live scope? I don't know. I can just tell you, it's mind blowing.
Well,
it's pretty awesome.
And I know you posted a few of those videos and seen those where, I mean, you can literally, I mean, the tail.
You see the body motion of the fish.
It's
big fish, big spoonbill and stuff.
Yeah.
You can see their gill line. You can see every fin on them. You can see, I mean, big carp, buffalo. You see their eye.
Yeah.
It's pretty insane.
So, and now you told me something about the cone of the transducers a little different.
It's a little narrower. So
Okay.
I think a Garmin runs a 22 or 20 degree. This is an 18 degree. So
what does that do? What's the...
it's said to be a little more detailed, you know, it's what they, but it also makes it a little bit tougher to stay on target, right? I mean, anywhere you've got that pointing is where it's at, but you know, if the wind blows you off a little bit,
right.
you have to be sure that you.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm learning is timing's everything.
Yeah.
And knowing how far when you pitch out in front of the boat, knowing just by repetition, knowing what is 20 feet
right.
or knowing what is 15 feet or whatever, and you see that fish coming and being able to time that pitch out to 20 feet, you know, because we're catching some crappie now that are put under the surface.
Right.
But they're out there 20 feet, you know, so you pitch it by them, and as it falls past them, then they begin to chase it and grab it. And so it's nothing new to you live scope guys, but it is absolutely incredible and user friendly.
Yeah.
I see a lot of the Garmin folks, you know, everybody wants to know what settings this, what settings that, how do you do this, how do you do that. Man, I'll tell you what, there is not much to this Active Target. You set your ranges and bump your contrast where you want it. I mean, it's plug and play.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that is freaking cool. And interestingly, like you said, you just got me thinking, because I haven't spent a lot of time with live scope myself, but when I have been on the boat, like with Richard, and that understand now. He knows every day.
He's got it dialed in, man.
He's like, that's 5 feet right there. I'm like, oh, like that? And he's like, no, that's 15 feet.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, let's reel back.
Yeah.
And you can pick up on it pretty
Yeah.
quick, though. So.
Yeah, he's got her dialed in good. For my catfish trips, man, I'm using it catching bait.
Yeah.
And I'm learning what all these different fish are and what they look like on my screen. Because I learned today that, crappie will be in unless they're on a piece of structure where it's a big ball of them. But, you'll have some fish out here by themselves. There may be 2 to 10 of them. Mm-hmm. And I was chasing some schools to catch bait for my catfish trip one morning. And I'd see these schools of like a dozen or, 8. And they look like crappie or big shad. And I'd throw on them and they were drum about 10, 11 inches long. Which make good catfish.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And that's what we were catching all our catfish on. I was like, that'll work too.
Yeah.
But I could literally get all of them. The whole school. In an 8-foot net, if there was a dozen of them, I've got her dialed in now where I throw that net, I can get them all.
Wow.
And I can tell you how many's in it before I bring it up.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible.
That's some serious stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty certain there's probably going to be a lot of people moving to that. Just for the sheer, like, newness.
Yeah, and there's so many, like, social media pages out there talking about it. Mm-hmm. And there is for... live scope. There's one for Hummingbird Mega Live, which there's no content of out there yet. I'm sure it's coming. I don't know why they're waiting, but there's just not much there. But it's coming. It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
But this is kind of new, and you'll see on pages where I got a bad transducer.
Yeah.
They had some kind of this is from Lawrence, or a person at Lawrence, but they had a kind of a bad epoxy for like 112, I think, of the very first run. Well, just like anything, you're going to hear about all 112.
Yeah.
Even though they're getting orders for like 11,000 a week.
Right.
You're going to hear about those 112 bad ones. And it's just like you go to a live scope page and everybody's like, I've seen people today talking about, the ghost tree, they'll never get rid of that. The new update, it's a big problem. Mine's a piece of junk, blah, blah, blah. Man, you just got to, find what works for you.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that active target is unreal.
And it's going to your point with social media. It's always like the minority that's unhappy is always the loudest. You can't hardly get someone to go leave you a positive review on your Facebook page. Yeah. But man, if they have one little thing that they want to complain about, they're all up there. And it's that thought process with social media. It's very easy to air your grievances.
It is. We've even seen that with Intel.
Yeah.
It's one of the most informative pages.
Right.
It doesn't cost you a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a free trial to get into it, but people were fussing on social media about having to pay for information.
Right. Yeah. So Truman Lake Fishing Intel, if you guys have been watching this for several episodes, we're doing this in conjunction with Endless Season Guide Service and Truman Lake Fishing Intel. Truman Lake Fishing Intel is a new website that we started this past year in August of 2020, and the concept is based off of BassingBob.com. Bassing Bob's been around going on 8 or 9 years now for Lake of the Ozarks. And it is a subscription website where you can become a paid member to get very exclusive, in-detail fishing reports from lake experts. We're talking a whole different kind of detail than what you find on a free Facebook group. These are the top-notch guides, like the one sitting next to me, and many more that are putting up daily, weekly fishing reports. I'm calling them, interviewing them, writing the reports. This is straight from the expert's mouth. And like Jeff said, there's actually a free membership to Truman Lake Fishing Intel where you can get access to the monthly guide dinners, which are some of the most informative videos you could watch. And it's free with the free membership. And like you said, with social media, there's folks that they're set in their ways. They, for whatever reason, think Truman Lake Fishing Intel is this money grab. And it's like, no, we provide tons of free information. As well as for those who are looking for that little bit more, we do have premium memberships where you get access to the fishing reports. But there's a ton of free content, and it's straight from the experts. So, it's pretty interesting. And I dialogue with a lot of folks that, for whatever reason, they haven't taken the time to understand it before they say something negative.
Yeah.
And
I know you had a little little deal this week.
Yeah.
I had seen some of that.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of folks don't understand. There's a lot of time goes into this. And, and if you don't think your time's worth anything, then you wouldn't get on a free Facebook page to see what the fish are doing before you go.
Right.
You got to think about it. If my time's worth anything,
right.
my time's worth something. Your time's worth something.
Right.
And so if your time is worth going to a Facebook page to see if the fish if the fish are biting before going fishing, you have to realize that this guy's time's worth something.
Yeah.
Uploading websites, interviewing people from all over the state, getting this information, that information. So I just had seen, that's the bittersweet part of social media.
Yeah.
It's like you said, if one wrong thing, everybody's going to call you out on it or what they think is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you could do 10 good things and you never hear of it.
What's pretty funny is, one of the folks on social media, so I participate in social media a lot, trying to get the word out about what we're doing because it is pretty unique and very informative compared to what's out there available now. And one of the guys was like, Tyler, you have all your buddies talking about this. Like, and these were not my buddies. These were other members of Truman Lake Fishing Intel.
I saw that. Some of those guys were like, I don't even know that guy.
Right. And so there's these folks that are commenting on these pages and these groups and saying, just join, just get a premium membership and you'll have all the information you want, which is true.
You won't have to go ask.
Right.
Somewhere else.
Right.
You just pull it up and look at it. There it is. Boom.
And these other people are accusing me of putting them up. I'm like, no, I don't know those people. And they commented I don't know Tyler. The website's just that good. So it's just kind of funny. But no, I mean, it's good to clarify for folks that are watching this that maybe hadn't looked into it. It's a really great resource. There's a ton of articles and news because it's not just fishing reports. We do tournament coverage as well. We have the most updated Navionics map on it where you can interact with Navionics and scroll all over the lake, see all kinds of detail. Tons of photos and videos. I mean, just an outrageous amount. Since we started in August of 2020, mid-August of 2020, we have over 400 fishing reports.
Yeah.
When you ask how often it's updated, that's a lot more than one a day.
Yeah.
So we're not even a year old. We're still 4 months out from being a year old. So.
And this may not have, a whole lot to do with the outdoors, but in a sense it does because social media has become such a huge part of the hunting and fishing community, both on a positive side and unfortunately a negative side.
Yeah.
But there's enough hate in the world.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Somebody posts a picture of him holding up a deer and he gets 3 attaboys and then 10 should have let him go another year. Don't be that guy.
Right.
Man, don't be that guy. Same way with a fish.
Right.
Well, that's a big one. You should have turned it back. Don't be that dude, man. I mean,
I saw one of those the other day in a Stockton fishing group. Someone kept a keeper smallmouth bass, and you'd have thought the world was ending.
I guarantee you, man. And, as bad as it may seem, God made everybody different for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like I said, there's enough hate out there. Don't be that guy on Facebook.
It reminds me of a funny story. So kind of my background, because I'm not an expert angler. My buddies like Jeff and Richard and Cody, they help make the world go round with this Truman Lake Fishing Intel. I try to hold my own, but you can't hardly do it against these guys. They're awesome. But my background growing up in hunting and fishing, I got into communication and all that and did the Kansas City Star Fishing Report for a few years. I think I told you this story.
Yeah.
But the very first week of my fishing report, one of the resources for River, the White River, I believe, he sends me his report. I put it in there, edit it the way it needs to be edited. But one of his lines was something about add a little lead weight to get your fly down in the water. And the very first report I did, and this lady writes in and, oh my gosh, how could you advocate for the use of lead in fishing? And like this 2 or 3 paragraphs into the editor. By the way, I never met the editor in person before I got the gig. Like, it was all email. We didn't even have a phone call.
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy. So I thought, oh, I'm done. It's over. And like calling me a horrible conservationist, all this stuff. And he just said to take out the word lead. Or no, his initial response was, Tyler, looks like you're making friends already. and I laughed. I was like, oh, thank God. And I just responded back. I was like, man, I don't know what the heck is going on there. He's like, don't worry about it. If you're not getting stuff like this written into the paper, then you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
And he just said, take out the word lead. Just say add. Just add some weight.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, easy enough. So for the next 3 years, every time he'd send me that report, I'd delete the word lead. So, kind of funny.
But just something to keep in the back of your mind when you're scrolling or you see something and automatically your mind triggers, oh, I ought to think about it before you put it out on there. Because I saw a guy yesterday had posted something about the game warden just checked him and he's heading downstream on whatever, you know. And I mean, guy got hammered. Like hammered. People pounded him. Because they're like, what do you care? Just mind the laws and let everybody do their business. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, man.
So they were mad that he was giving people a heads up that the game warden was in the area?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they used to flash their lights when you knew a cop was down the road.
Yeah.
But just don't be that guy.
Right.
We got to get off of that. Because
yeah. Well, the one last thing I was going to add to it is just kind of unrelated, but it's like, to your comment, when you're getting ready to comment, you're like, wait a sec. Like, just don't do it. Curse words. Like, when you have to physically type out the F word or any other curse word, it's like, wait a second. You're taking time to type that.
Yeah.
Just stop. That's a little unnecessary. Yeah. But, hey, it happens.
And we're all guilty of thinking it or typing it or saying it or whatever, man. Just, I don't know. If you take anything away from this, just try to do better on social media. Man.
Yeah.
We watch this stuff. I don't comment. I won't debate. 99% of my time, you can go through most of my stuff. I won't even defend myself. If somebody says something crazy, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to engage. Right. One, it's hard for me to disengage.
Right.
But I just don't engage. And a lot of times, you know, people say, well, we'd like some information. And y'all know me. I'll help anybody with anything. I'll give you whatever I got. I mean, that's just, I've always been that way. I was raised that way, and that's how it's going to be. But I often find when I post something, I'll get a lot of comments. I love it. Keep them coming. But a lot of them, when I start getting questions, if I answer one or two, I'm going to get 300.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just one of those things. It's not I'm ignoring anybody or anything like that. It's just, I think, man, I better not do that because it'll just lead into the next 3 days of commenting on this post.
Well, and I mean, I'm busy and like my schedule doesn't even compare when you're doing trips. A lot of times doubles. Like I can only imagine you've got so many messages coming in, calls every single day. Yeah. So that can be overwhelming.
Just you fish all day and phone all night.
Right.
That's my wife.
Yeah. No, she helps you kind of stay organized. Doesn't she?
She does. Yeah. Dude, she is a godsend. but there is times when she's like, hey. Yeah. It's 8 o'clock. I think we're done answering.
Right. Goodness gracious. Well, so a little bit more on the fishing. Crappie we're here in early April. It's going to be turning on here.
We're starting to see some males. You guys always know it when the spawn starts getting close and you start throwing those fish in a live well. The bucks, we call it putting their tuxedos on. They start turning really black. Yeah. They're starting to do that. They're getting really excited. The water temperature's warming up. You know, we're finding water. I found water today that was 58 degrees. So it's starting to get there. As soon as these days get close to 14 hours, I think you're going to start seeing some of those fish start to push up towards structure. Barring any huge rains or anything like that, they're still running the dam right now, but the lake's still falling. I wouldn't say rapidly, but it's falling at a good tick. And, you know, in another week to 2 weeks, if they get it down a little bit and say, okay, that's enough, a good stable pool for spawn would be really handy. Yeah.
Well, and I think it was at 716.3 something when I checked here just a little bit ago. And it brings up a good point because one of the topics I had forgotten to write down, but just now remembered, Big Bass Bash is coming, not this weekend, but the following weekend. You can sign up online. If you search Anglers in Action or Big Bass Bash on Google, you can find it. It is a tournament that's geared towards amateurs. Guides are not allowed to fish it. Folks that spend a certain amount of money on tournament entry fees a year are not allowed to fish it. If you win a certain amount of money a year, you're not allowed to fish it. It is really geared towards the amateur angler. They're expecting, I believe, 2,500 to 3,000 boats. This is the first time they've opened it up to Truman Lake. Typically, it's only on Lake of the Ozarks. So the thing with Truman is it's been really high. And if you talk to like our pro bass guys, you know, it's not super ideal for bass right now. I was talking to Darren Langford earlier. He's like, man, if it can just level out. And he said it should turn on pretty quick.
Yeah.
The thing is, and we've got some videos at Truman Lake Fishing Intel right now with David McCormick, who makes his lake prediction, which lake's going to pull the big fish out. I'm not going to spoil it. You got to go to the website. But which bait and how much weight it's going to take, and goes through the spring pattern. But Lake of the Ozarks and Truman together, there's going to be some big fish caught. I mean, there was I don't know if you saw it over the weekend, but there was a 9-pounder caught out of Lake of the Ozarks in the Anglers in Action tournament. A 9-pounder and 2 7s. Like, 7 normally wins big bass in the tournament. Nope. Someone pulled a 9-pounder out of there. So it's going to be really interesting to see where folks go. But number one, first place, biggest fish of the weekend wins $100,000. That's quite the prize.
That's not peanuts.
No. Second place wins 20 grand. I believe third place wins 10 grand, if I remember correctly. And then they have a bunch of payouts every 2 hours. So even if you don't catch big fish, if you play it right and you weigh in a 5.5, 6 pounder in the right, 9 to 11 time frame, you could take home a few $100. And if you do that several times throughout the weekend, you might walk home with $1,000 or more.
Are you fishing it?
No.
Why?
Well, I haven't asked. I'm not sure that they would let me because of the website. Oh. Even though I'm not a professional fisherman, I'm not a tournament angler, I'm not a guide, but I'm probably gonna ask. But we'll see. It would be more just for fun. So I will be there covering the tournament. Either the weigh-ins on Truman are at Osage Bluff and Sterrett Creek. So I will, at a minimum, if I'm not fishing, I will be at those docks. And, you know what? I can't fish it. Peyton, he's got a baby shower that Saturday. Just now. So I keep thinking and forgetting about that because hunting and fishing fills my mind more than pretty much everything else. So, unfortunately, that ain't going to happen. But somebody's going to win $100 grand that weekend, and it's going to be a big deal. We hope it's Truman. That'd be really, really cool considering it's the first year they're doing it. I believe they'll be back in the fall as well. I need to check that, but I do believe they'll be back in the fall, and I think that one, they're going to see how this one goes to decide if they're going to open it to Truman again. But
it's really muddy here.
Yes.
And especially like over on the Tebow Arm, I was over there on Sunday. Actually, I was baptized in Truman Lake.
Yeah.
And the water's brown. Brown.
And that was on the Tebow.
And that's from pulling, that dam pulling real hard.
Driving over the mile-long bridge today, freaking Grand Arm was chocolatey
brown.
looking. Yeah. And that water had to be a little chilly, even at 50.
It was, but it was 70-some degrees outside. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I come out, I was like, I didn't even need a towel. I was going to shake it off. I was like, man, that's all right.
Now, was there anyone else doing that with you, by the way?
Yeah, so, it's been something I've been wanting to do for a while. I never was baptized as a child.
Uh-huh.
We're pretty active in the church and stuff like that. And there was someone wanted to do it. I went to my pastor and I was like, hey, I want to do this. I did this probably months ago. And he was like, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, we'll do it when it gets warmer sometime. And then,
yeah,
Lord kept kind of putting it on me. And I was like, oh, let's do it like Sunday.
Right.
So we did. And then there was actually some more of my family, actually some cousins, some of the younger kids and stuff.
Oh, very cool.
They were like, yeah, we're in. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. That's pretty cool. It's really special
pretty
too.
Exciting.
I mean, just obviously a big personal thing, but also not just from the spiritual side, but just your roots in the area. That's really, really cool. That'd be cool if they maybe did that a little more often.
Yeah.
That'd be really neat.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of folks that would love to do it.
I agree. Yeah.
So,
really the world's going, they need to.
Yeah.
We all need to.
I know what you mean. So, well, we've talked a lot of fishing, but I mean, I don't know. Jeff and I had talked about this. if I could do one thing the rest of my life, and only one thing,
Turkey hunt.
it would be turkey hunting. Killing goblin toms in April. And
Youth weekend is this weekend.
Yes, this weekend, and we're seeing strutters. You saw some turkeys today out around Truman. Yep. They're starting to do their thing.
They weren't around Truman.
Oh, yeah.
You were talking to me when I was almost home.
Oh, gotcha. But no, they're doing their thing. They're strutting. They're still a little
still bunched up.
Yeah, they're still grouped up around us too a little bit, and
that's not a bad gig though.
Yeah.
And you know let's talk a little bit about youth season coming up this weekend. You know, as a mentor, if you're taking a juvenile out, make sure you have your turkey tag purchased.
Yeah.
Your turkey tag and their turkey tag, obviously,
right.
But you need to be a permit holder
have
as
an
well.
unfilled turkey tag.
Yep, and you know, shoot your guns.
Yep.
Everybody, I've seen a bunch of my buddies have been out, and some of them even got turkey loads from me. A bunch of my buddies have been out, and they've been patterning shotguns and stuff like that, and just get that juvenile ready for what boy or girl, whatever, you know, get them ready for the shot. Bunched up turkeys, you know, one of the main things is, you know, you're always calling to the gobbler when he's gobbling and stuff too, but right now, if you can get his hen, these hens are really, really vocal right now, and with them being bunched up like that, if you can get those hens really talking, even if you don't hear a gobble, man, call those hens in because they're so bunched up right now. He'll be right there with her. Yep. But we're hearing some hens now that are really, really, really fired up, and the gobblers, we're hearing some gobbling, but not like on fire gobbling. Yeah. But the hens are really, really.
And I have a little story to add to that, but first I wanted to just get your take on something just kind of random, small. I see a lot of folks every year when they are patterning their shotguns, especially with kids, they'll go put a paper plate, you know, old little pumpkin from the fall that's still hanging around, and they put it out there 30 yards and they shoot, and if it falls or moves, like, okay, you're on. Okay, fine, teach their own, but I tend to think there probably needs to be a paper with a turkey head on it, just to really see. I mean, I don't know, does it matter? I mean, if they can hit that little thing, do you think that's enough confidence to know they're going to make a clean shot?
Yeah. What we find and what I find in doing the youth clinics with Mr. Johnny and Linda Everhart, doing those, we did a lot of, we'd take a dowel rod or a stick with a pop can on it. Yep. And they would shoot that pop can, because when you get a paper target with the turkey head, then, you know, the bead goes on that turkey head, but you got this much target, so it can kind of float all over, and like, okay, I'm good, you know. With the pop can on it, you're shooting at such a small target. You know, biggest thing is keep your head down on that gun. If you kids are watching this, you make sure you keep your head down on that gun. Don't raise your head up right about the time you shoot. But if you shoot at that pop can on a stick at 20 or 30 yards, then you know you got to be right on that target. And then, you know, if you've got, you know, 20 pellets in that pop can, you're in good
go. And it's about the size of a turkey head.
It's kind of aim small, miss small, right? I mean, you know, when you got these big papers, you got a lot of target to hit. You know, but if you've got that pop can, and it's like you said, it's just like a turkey head, and it's aim small, miss small. Keep your head down on that gun, put that bead right on it, let it rip.
So anyway, I just want to get your take on that. That is a really cool, nice little tip. To your point about the hens, though, so I was lucky enough to travel on up to old Nebraska here in the last, it was last weekend. My good buddy Joey Perpura, he's a Midwest Land Group agent. You've probably seen his signs all over the place. He has a buddy that he went to college with that owns some land up there in Nebraska. Now, Nebraska, you can start bow hunting turkeys in March, late March. And he called me on Thursday morning. He's like, hey, I think we need to go to Nebraska this weekend. And I was like, okay, what do you mean you think? Like, do we have access somewhere? He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'll call you back. He calls me back at 10 o'clock that night. He's like, we're good. And I was like, okay. I didn't have any of my stuff. So I drove up from our house in Joplin, came to Clinton, got all my stuff, drove from here up to southern Nebraska. It was about a 6.5, 7 hour day dealing with all that. And Friday night we're there scouting for turkeys. And long story short is They weren't on the property we had access to. We didn't even wake up early on Saturday because we knew we were going to have to go get permission. And it's still doable. Like, you can still get permission. Now, I think in our case it worked out a little better that we had a person in the area that we knew that we could use as a reference. And, it was pretty easy. For whatever reason, these farmers up there, they were not too fond of turkeys.
Yeah.
And Joey, he's just really good at getting permission. There's a little bit of an art to it. To be honest, they always talk about don't wear camo, don't show up the day of. I mean, we weren't in camo at the time, but like we had our binos. It was clear what we were doing was turkey hunting. And farmer happened to be out in front of his house. We drove up, and Joey just went up and talked to him. Was like, "Hey, I'm Joey, and we're out here turkey hunting. But gosh darn it, all the turkeys are on your place and not on ours." And so that's kind of how he struck up the conversation. And the guy's like, "Yeah, just go for it." And he's like, "If you see someone else hunting, I told someone else they could hunt, just tell them you talk to me." It was like the greatest kind of farmer you want to talk to.
Yeah, sure.
At the same time, the worst kind, because he
lets everybody
know. So anyway, it worked out and got another 2,000 acres. We got set up on them, snuck in within 100 yards using the terrain, set up the blind, Jake decoy, breeding hen decoy, alert hen decoy, feeding hen decoy. So 3 hens and a Jake.
Like a spread.
Yes. And we had them set at 10 yards. We were in the blind. It was one of the really nice Primos blinds, and we were wearing all black inside. And we knew they were there. We knew they were right over the hill in this little cattle pasture. They were flipping cow patties. They were getting little bugs and whatever. And so we called just enough to let them know we were there. This was a big flock. Little did we know the entire flock was coming in within 15 yards in about an hour. And the hens came in first. They were the first ones that came to check it out. And once they came in, all of a sudden you just started to see these red heads popping up over the hill, all these other hens. And before we knew it, we had 43 turkeys within 20 yards of us. And we couldn't get a shot for the longest time. There were 7 or 8 Jakes, 7 or 8 Toms. The Toms were trying to come in. The Jakes would run them off. Their gobbles are puny.
Yeah, they're real weak.
Nothing like the Easterns that we have here in Missouri. But they were full-grown Toms, and finally 2 made their way. Joey got his, and the Jakes just beating up on it. They all run off, chasing each other around, and finally another Tom sneaks his way back in. I shoot him, and anyway, we ended up with filling. We both had 2 tags, and we got them both. And after the first 2, they left, and we were sitting there celebrating, and we were like, okay, I guess we're done, and they're gone, and we were filming our closing video, and all of a sudden they started gobbling again, and they didn't go far apparently because they came right back, and we got 2 more. So that was really cool, and just like
any long-spurred birds?
Not really.
Yeah.
There was
2-year-olds.
there were 2-year-olds, and there was one that was pushing an inch. The beards were. They're just not like an Eastern. They're just, the beards weren't as full or as long, really.
And those are Rios?
Well,
or Rio Merriam Cross?
Probably Rio Merriam, because they, I don't know, I didn't really notice too much of light coloration, honestly. It didn't on the Toms. The Jakes were pretty light colored. The hens were very smoky colored, very smoky. I'd never seen it. I mean, they were gray.
Yeah.
So that was it was kind of cool seeing them up close. We got some cool footage that we got up on YouTube, and just a really neat experience. And to Jeff's point, you get the hens in. They're like little scouts coming to check things.
When they're bunched up like
that. And the hens were posturing up on, and they were aggressive, and that's really all it took to get everybody coming in. Yep. So that was a really neat experience, and it got me fired up to start doing a lot more.
I'm so ready, dude. I'm just ready to turkey hunt. Ready to turkey hunt.
Right. So back to the youth season. You can, unlike in the regular season, you can hunt all day long.
Yep.
So, you got a little kid that doesn't like getting up super early. Yep. It's not the end of the world. Although I would highly recommend you get them out there so they can experience that
on the roost gobbles.
That on the roost gobbles, the owls going, the screech owls going, and those turkeys responding to it, and the crow calls. If you want to make a turkey hunter for life, that needs to be part of the experience if at all possible. But at the same time, Jeff probably will agree with this. Birds can be kind of finicky early in the morning, especially when they're hens. And when you get one gobbling 10 o'clock, midday, there's a pretty darn good chance if you can get in and not bump them, that bird is very killable. So, with that said, Jeff, what kind of tips or tactics do you have for late morning, midday hunt, or maybe even an afternoon sit, since the use can do that?
A lot of times, like afternoons, what I like to do is just get into a known strut zone that may be close to a roost. If you know that they roost down in the cottonwoods on the South 40, I wouldn't get right under the roost, but I would get between where you've seen those birds and that roost and try to catch them coming back through. If you can get him gobbling, it'll work at 3 o'clock just like it does at 8 a.m. And we've done it many a times on the youth weekend. If you can get him gobbling, he'll come just like a morning gobbler would. But a lot of times, if you know where they're roosting, try to get between A and B. Obviously, their position. But again, early like this, if you can get those hens fired up, man, that's the ticket when the birds are still bunched up. Another thing is, and just like you said, sometimes Jake decoys early when they're bunched up like that isn't always the greatest. It can be a deterrent. If a 2-year-old's had his butt whooped by a group of Jakes and he comes out and sees a 2-year-old longbeard and he comes out and sees that Jake decoy, he'll turn around and walk right off. I've seen it 100 times. So sometimes when they're still bunched up, I don't know is a Jake decoy is the greatest. On private ground, a strutter's pretty tough to beat when they're bunched up like this. For whatever reason, they'll come out to a strutter, but just a Jake decoy. I don't know why. But it, get those hens talking even if he won't gobble. They're not gobbling. They're gobbling some, and some days are better than others, but they're not really just burning it down a whole bunch. But the hens are really talking. If you can get her going, he'll come with her.
I had every intention this morning of waking up early and listening, and didn't quite make it out. But I did get out to check some cameras after 8 o'clock, and 9 o'clock rolled around, and there was one sounding off pretty good. Okay. And I thought, man, I would kill you today if it were season. So but no, with the kids too, and you and I have talked about this. It's really awesome. And my favorite way to do it, get in, set up against a tree, get in the brush and whatnot. But when it comes to kids, having a blind is probably, especially a younger kid, 10 or under, especially a new one that hasn't ever been out. Being in that blind is...
It'll be able to move a little bit.
You can get away with a little bit more stuff than you otherwise would because they just don't fully understand yet. Their eyesight is out of control. And so that can make it a little more fun. Because, I know kids that have gone out and hunted hard and sat next to trees, and them not being able to move or talk or do anything it took away from that kid's experience, and maybe their desire to go do it again wasn't as high as other ones that were able to go sit there and be in the blind, move around, and be comfortable. It's just a fine line that you got to know, how old your kid is, what their experience level is to kind of know what the best route is to take.
For sure.
But no, I'm super pumped, and there's going to be some turkeys killed. I can't wait to see some pictures. I think the weather is supposed to be pretty good.
It's supposed to be nice. Yeah, it's supposed to be really nice.
And speaking of, so that kind of brings us to one of the other things we talked about this last time, that mushrooms were getting ready to get going, but now they're going.
Guys finding a few red ones, quite a few red ones actually, and then some of the black morels or smoky morels, not the little grays, but the actual black morels. We're starting to find quite a few of those. So.
And I haven't looked at all yet. Honestly, I don't know that I've ever looked this early. There's black morels, the little grays, or yellow morels. So the yellows are the ones that I like to.
Yellows and the whites.
Get big. So we'll be getting out after it. I do have a red mushroom, or what do they call those two? Beef eaters or
beefsteaks?
Beefsteaks. Yeah, beefsteaks. Got a little.
Some people call them beefsteaks.
Okay,
it's really confusing.
So I can't remember if we talked about this, but beefsteaks are technically They are edible.
Yeah.
But
they are poisonous.
Yes. yeah.
I've been eating them for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go eat a bunch of them. I'm not going to tell you that because they can make you sick. Some people they do make sick. They make my little brother very, very, very sick.
Yeah.
But me, I've been eating them for a long time, and I'll eat 2 or 3 messes of them.
Yeah.
Just kind of a pregame to morale time.
Yeah.
Some people, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're eating poisonous. I don't know.
So the deal is, the MDC has a very good mushroom identification book. There's also a group on Facebook called Mushroom Identification.
Morel mushroom.
That's the Missouri Morel Hunters.
Yeah.
There's a group that's mushroom identification. You post a photo and they manage it really well. Where like you basically have a bunch of mushroom experts that are answering your questions on what they give you the scientific name. I recommend joining it if you have questions. But the MDC book is really awesome. Carry it around a little pack with you. Open it up because you're going to run across all kinds of mushrooms. It is kind of interesting because there's a lot of other really good mushrooms out there. But they talk about with mushrooms that are semi-poisonous, cook it, put it in your mouth, take it out. See if you have a reaction if you've never tried it. And if you don't have a reaction, okay, take a bite. And just have very, very small amounts of it. Because like you said, every person's different. And it can mess you up. If you're one of those people that is not good with it, it can mess up your liver, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. So it's better to be safe than sorry, especially identifying the mushroom. One of the other mushrooms that I find quite a bit in the springtime is called a pheasant back.
Yeah.
And the really fascinating thing about these, you can pretty much guarantee what it is when you see it. They're very cool. I mean, it looks like the coloration of pheasant feathers on it. But if you pick it and smell it, it smells like watermelon. Yeah. And it absolutely smells like watermelon. And they are edible. You got to do some stuff to it to make it a little better. But ever since I got that book, I'm like, oh, look at that. I've yet to find a chicken of the woods.
Hen of the woods, yep.
Well, there's chicken and there's hen.
Yeah.
I have found a hen of the woods on our place.
And the deer antlers, the corals or whatever they're called.
I don't know if I've seen those.
We've ate those, lots of those.
There's the lion's mane mushroom that's like white and stringy. Apparently it's really good.
That's probably the same one.
Okay.
No, different. No way.
Never found one of those. I'll tell you what, I have found a chicken of the woods out of the miles, hundreds of miles I've done walking out here remote from the city. The chicken of the woods was in the middle of Kansas City in a little 20-acre strip off State Line Road in a little apartment area that I lived in. And it was old. I missed it. It was just kind of hardened up. But
chanterelles are good.
Yeah. And I don't know. I probably walked by a bunch of them.
You can find those in your yard
sometimes. But chicken of the woods and hen of the woods are really good. The one hen in the woods that I found weighed almost 15 pounds. They get massive.
Yeah.
And they were fantastic. Oyster mushrooms, that's more of I found a bunch of those in the fall. But those are really good. And you can go buy those in the store too, but it's really cool when you can find them, forage them. You're like, oh, I'm really living off the land now.
Yep.
So really neat. And folks are finding them, like you said, right here in the immediate area.
Yeah.
There are some morels, like the little grays, that are being found in southwestern Missouri. Like Jeff said, it's Missouri Morel Hunters, I want to say on Facebook.
Think that's right, yeah.
Or Missouri Confirmed Finds, one of the two. And they require you, before they even post your picture, you have to have a receipt or newspaper that shows the date, that was the day, and hold it next to the mushroom. And and they have a map where they'll add a little morel to the map as it progresses further north. So they're starting to pop. I wouldn't tell you to just go run into the woods just yet. No. For me, it'll be another...
No, you scare all your turkeys away.
Right. Stay out of the turkey area.
So much going on.
Yeah.
This time of year, mid-April, the hummingbirds are going to start coming through Missouri here pretty quick.
That's right.
That's always middle of April.
Frost seeding the clover. Clover's starting to creep up now. Yep. That's why I love seeing that clover, just lush green clover. But yeah, we got...
You can plant that about any time.
Huh? Yeah, pretty much. if you do it on snow, it freaking melts into the ground. It's really nice. I didn't seed ours until early March, and so is what it is. Got some rain right after, and it's starting to pop up pretty good. But the hummingbirds are, I say humming, like
hummingbirds,
like the grass.
Missouri.
Yeah, but hummingbirds are a big deal, and in the summertime, my dad will have about 14 of. And he's making the sugar water like 2 or 3 times a week and they go through that stuff like.
Oh, my wife's the same way.
Yeah.
And then she'll get out on the porch, and we have on our front porch we've got these chairs, and she's got our feeders, and those things will come down and get right in front of her face and just hover there.
Yep. If you stick out your finger right by the feeder and just stand there very still, they will sometimes land on your finger. Just kind of a random hummingbird story. A couple of them. I've had one fly into my truck that I had to catch. I've caught 3 actually by hand. Now
they make a really loud peep when you're holding it in your hand.
Yeah.
Like a whistle.
Now once you get them in your hand, they're real tiny and you can be real delicate. And if you just open up your hand, those kind of pop up and just sit, and then they're gone. But I had one, and this was not intentional. And I had one of those Zara spooks, those yellow, green, like just really chartreusey and bright. And to this day, I keep thinking that it had to have thought it was a flower. But I was up in Lee Summit fishing this lake. I was walking along from one spot on the bank about 100 yards to another spot. And I set my stuff down. I reach up to unhook my lure. And I'm kind of jittery when it comes to just creepy, crawly, whatever. And there was this thing on the lure. Whoa, what the hell? And so I looked at it and I thought, okay, that's a leaf. And no, I was like, oh my God, that's a hummingbird. It was hooked on the Zara spook. And it wasn't like I hooked it, wound it in, and I was walking along, rod behind my shoulder, landed on it and got hooked. And so it was just barely hooked underneath some feathers, and I got it undone. It sat on my hand and then flew off. But I mean, I'll never do that in my life. That'll never happen again in my life. Yeah. And I just, to this day, I just gotta believe it. Thought it was a flower trying to go in and get some kind of nectar. So that was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, pretty cool.
But anyway, just like Jeff said, there's so much exciting stuff. Get out and explore.
It's a great time of year, man.
Yeah, and there's just so much public land in Missouri. If you don't have your own place to go, so much, especially right here around the Clinton and Warsaw area. So much core ground to explore. Man, Missouri's just an awesome state to do outdoors activities this time of year.
Yeah, it is. It's really easy to go and be successful in the springtime. Mm-hmm. Whether it's fishing, whether it's in the outdoors, whether it's mushroom hunting, whether it's whatever. It's always fun to get outside, but it's even funner to get outside and be successful. And this is the time of year to do it.
I'll tell you, when you know it's spring, I pulled a tick off of myself today.
Yeah, we had a couple. We had some of those.
Crawling on me. Luckily, it wasn't in me yet, but it was crawling on me. I was meeting Steve Blake, having a little drink with him down there at the Valley Bar in Warsaw, and he's like, "There's a tick crawling on your neck." And grabbed it. But yeah, so it's definitely getting to be that time. Things are warming up. It's pretty cool on the photos. If you run trail cameras, pay attention. You can get some really cool photos of the deer coming out of their winter coat, and they
look mangy.
Yeah, they look mangy, but it's pretty neat to see it. And I've got some deer already starting to grow their nubs, and I have one buck that's still holding.
He's still got him.
He will hold. He's got to be. He dropped last year somewhere between April 7th and April 9th. So we're getting close. I know the last picture we had of him was going into our property. I've got pictures of him 1 mile that way, 1 mile at the end of this other part of the lease that we have, and then another 0.75 miles to the south. So trying to triangulate this dude's sheds is going to be a little difficult, but
he's covering ground.
Yeah, he is. I happened to stumble on his sheds last year while I was turkey hunting. So I just killed a bird and was walking out, and they just happened to be there. So, the other thing too about spring just got me thinking before we wrap up. Snakes come out this time of year, and I'm a little averse to snakes.
I don't mind most snakes.
I bring it up because you always hear folks talking about the water moccasins around Truman Lake. Have you seen a water moccasin around Truman in your lifetime? Yeah, because they don't come this far up. It's so
Northern water snakes most of the time.
Yep.
But copperheads, I don't like copperheads.
Now, how many copperheads do you run around?
Lots of them.
Really?
Yeah.
So here's something interesting. On our place here in northwest of Clinton, in the almost 9 years that we've been here, have not seen a copperhead a single time.
Yeah.
Down in Warsaw,
you got dirt.
Yeah. Warsaw, copperheads everywhere.
Rocks.
Yep. Yep.
Clay and rocks, you know.
Yeah.
That's like at my brother's place out there. I mean, it's copperheads all over the place, you know. But at my place, you won't ever see one.
Yeah.
I got black dirt. They got clay and rocks. Mm-hmm. Those things have live babies.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Dude, that just gave me the chills.
That's one of the worst things I've ever seen is, obviously if you can catch them and relocate them, that is obviously best. But we had a situation where this wasn't a catch and relocate deal. And my grandpa had it with a piece of, it was a shepherd's hook that my grandma's bird feeder was hanging on.
Right.
And actually had squished it enough in the middle trying to get it to move that those babies went all slithering out.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It was gross.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because that was probably right around the house, I assume.
Yeah. It was on the front step.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. You're not supposed to kill them, but in those situations, that I think it's pretty much condoned.
I'm a snake relocator.
Yeah.
Like we have black snakes at home. They get in the chicken house.
Yeah.
I do this. I grab them by the tail and carry them over the fence and
Man,
point them the other direction.
they just give me the heebie-jeebies. We got this old building over here full of old stuff that the previous property owner had stored in there, and he passed away, and his kids didn't want any of it because it was all junk. But there was this big coil of black hose, water hose, and there's this giant black snake that lives in there. He's huge. We found his skin multiple times a year when he sheds. And this was last year. I walked in there, and I was just walking around, and I walked by the black coil, and I just happened to look down because I thought I saw it kind of angled weird. I'm like, that's not the big black snake. He was sitting like in a circle on the coil of hose. Oh my! You were talking about like a heart attack at age 27 or 28. It's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. So. I almost got bit by a snake when I was very little, 5 or 6 years old, playing in a creek. It actually struck at me. I lifted up a rock, and it struck out of just response, and it missed me. And my dad will tell the story that he's like, I turned around, you were screaming, and you flew in the air 10 feet. He swears I flew in the air. And ever since then, I've been kind of traumatized around snakes. So anyway, April and springtime is great for a lot of things.
Except for snakes.
Watch out for those snakes. That's all I'm saying. So, but anyway, that's about everything that I think we wanted to talk about tonight. And
hope y'all enjoyed it.
We'll be back for another edition next month. We're going to be back for the next Truman Lake Guide Dinner this weekend on Sunday. So just a lot of fun stuff that we're doing. You can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Jeff's Facebook page, Endless Season Outdoor Guide Service, Truman Lake Fishing Intel, and we're going to be putting this out. So if you have questions, topics, comments, leave them, and we'll do our best to get to all of them as much as we can.
Yep.
So
if you like this podcast, share it.
Yeah.
Share it with your friends. We really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, guys, I'm Tyler Mahoney.
And I'm Jeff Falkenberry.
And we'll see you on the next one.